Coming up on UGTV, Board of Commission meeting of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Before we have our invocation, we will observe a moment of silence for Judge Phil Seavey, who recently passed away. Judge Seavey was appointed to the district court in 1980, and from 1985 through 2008 served as administrative judge. So again, our invocation is being given by Reverend Artrell Harris of Roswell Church of Christ, and Reverend, if we would just observe a moment of silence after we stand before the invocation. Thank you.
Lord, we come to you tonight on our great county. We ask that you continue to look in on us here in Wyandotte. We ask that you will bless every jurisdiction, every area. We pray for economic growth and prosperity. Lord, as we pray for that economic growth and prosperity, let us never forget that not even a quarter mile down the road on the right, if you just walk out of this building, there is a tower with people in there that need services. There's a place there that people really need services. Lord, we just pray that you will let our communities continue to come together in unity. We just pray that you will just bless the firemen, the policemen, the first responders. And Lord, we pray that you will bless these commissioners that are here, that they will continue to deliberate and make the best decisions to support our community. Lord, we just ask that you will provide opportunities for young people in our community, young people to go to college, young people to finish school. We just pray for just all of the needs in our area. Now, Lord, we offer this prayer up to you. We just ask it in the mighty, mighty name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let us all say amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Harris. And as the clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, it has been requested that special use permit application item 1, this item is being withdrawn at the request of the petitioner. Again, that's special use permit application item number 1.
Thank you. Tonight, we have two distinct parts to our meeting. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first, followed by the regular commission meeting. I ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor David Alvey, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, is unable to be here, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. Number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote or recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there is a request to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn it off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with the proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had contact with proponents of SP 2019-48.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum.
I've had contact with opponents of item A1, change of zone, number 3187, and then the accompanying SP 2019-47.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend.
Mayor, Commissioners, I've had contact with proponents of SP 2019-41 and SP 2019-85.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley.
I've had contact with parties for SP 2019-72.
Thank you.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone applications, item 13187, Veronica Wesselhoff. Change of zone from C1 Limited Business District to C2 General Business District for a used car lot at 2120 Park Drive, recommended for denial. Item 2319 Form, Tom Noty with Noty and Associates, PA. Change of zone from C1 Limited Business District to CP3 Planned Commercial District for Contracts Office at 8525 Parallel Parkway, recommended for approval. Special use permit item applications, item number 1, as mentioned earlier, was withdrawn by the requester. Item 2, SP 2019-35, Lolita Sanders, special use permit for a child education center at 1316 Armstrong Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2019-38, Thomas W. Morgan III, home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 431 North Thompson Street, recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 4, SP 2019-41, Irvin Jackson Jr. with Jackson Trucking, special use permit for a temporary use of land to park 2 semi-trucks at 3232 Sewell Avenue, recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 5, SP 2019-43, Dennis Covington with USD 500, renewal of a special use permit for modular classrooms for Lindbergh Elementary School at 641 North 57th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 6, SP 2019-44, Dennis Covington with USD 500, renewal of a special use permit for modular classrooms for Eugene Ware Elementary School at 4820 Oakland Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 7, SP 2019-45, Dennis Covington with USD 500, renewal of a special use permit for modular classrooms for Sumner Academy at 1610 North 8th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 8, SP 2019-47, Veronica Wesselhoff, special use permit for a used car lot at 2120 Park Drive, recommended for denial. Item 9, SP 2019-48, John L. Peterson with Peterson Law, renewal expansion of a special use permit for a restaurant and bar at 412 North Fifth Street, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 10, SP 2019-49, Sylvia Bedola, special use permit for a temporary use of land to park a business truck at 835 Split Log Avenue, recommended for denial. Item 11, SP 2019-53, James Allen Bogert, home occupational special use permit for a short-term rental Airbnb at 217 Orchard Street, recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 12, SP 2019-59, Kelly and James Horman with Billion Bubbles, home occupational special use permit for a pet grooming operation at 7114 Parallel Parkway, recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 13, SP 2019-60, Matt Gallagher with American Concrete Products, special use permit for the temporary use of land for an office trailer at 6945 Inland Drive, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 14, SP 2019-61, David and Deborah Beacock Camp, homes occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 11827 Markswell Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 15, SP 2019-63, Steve Beaumont with Beaumont Enterprises LLC, renewal of a special use permit for live entertainment in conjunction with Chateau Avalon at 701 Village West Parkway, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 16, SP 2019-64, Michael Rhodes, special use permit for a dirt field at 13742 Pulford Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 17, SP 2019-65, Karen Moley with Woodward's Southside Holdings, special use permit for live entertainment in conjunction with existing restaurant at 3001 Miriam Lane, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 18, SP 2019-66, Amber Heather with Piper Unified School District, number 203, special use permit for a temporary use of land for a greenhouse at 3131 North 122nd Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 19, SP 2019-67, John L. Peterson from Call Valley Companies, Inc., renewal of a special use permit for a sand plant dredging operation at 2400 South 78th Street, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 20, SP 2019-68, Billy Cobb with Bear Real Estate LLC, renewal of a home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 2810 West 42nd Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 21, SP 2019-69, Lauren Lewick with KVC Foundation, Inc., renewal of a special use permit for 12 nonviolent adult patients at 4300 Brenner Road, recommended for approval until 12/31/2019. Item number 22, SP 2019-72, John L. Peterson with Cobb Valley Companies, Inc., renewal of a special use permit to continue extracting material and fill with state-approved rubble and recycling at 8300 Gibbs Road and 8205 Call Drive, recommended for approval for 10 years. We have one item under vacation application. Item 1 is UE 2019-4, Amy Lung with DA Homes, Inc., vacation of utility easements at 11330 Webster Avenue, recommended for approval. Plan review application, one item, PR 2019-13, Matt Gibbs with State 4 LLC, preliminary and final plan review for Aspen Dental at 7524 State Avenue, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous, one item, SP 2019-4, Tom Noty with Noty and Associates, which is a master plan amendment for low-density residential to commercial at 8525 Parallel Parkway, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous ordinances, item number 1 is an ordinance rezoning property at 647 Southwest Boulevard, General Industrial District to CP3 Planned Commercial District, which is recommended for approval. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. Next is the Planning and Zoning non-consent agenda. The first item is the recommendation from the Planning Commission to revoke special use permit application SP-2018-54 R. Scott Beeler for the temporary use of land for storage of motor vehicles, including cars, SUVs, pickup trucks, and semi-truck trailers at 9700 Leavenworth Road. I'll ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This comes to you recommended that the special use permit not be revoked, but that the vehicles be allowed to be parked on the site and be delivered either by driving them to the site with proper documentation required by the state to drive on our roads or by transport truck.
Thank you. I'd ask the applicant to come forward to present his application. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. R. Scott Beeler, 10851 Maston, Overland Park. I'm with Lathrop Gage, and we represent the Rough and Woodlands Company. Matter comes back to you here. First, I want to say I appreciate very much that the matter was continued to tonight, as I was in Birmingham, Alabama at the last of your scheduled meetings and could not appear. You will recall when we were here, it was to gain, and if I could use Commissioner Bynum's words, clarification on the stipulations that exist for the Woodland Special Use Permit. And as Mr. Richardson indicated, there was no revocation, there was no vote on a revocation taken here. It was simply remanded back under a theory that before any of the stipulations could change, they had to have direction from this body. On page 5, at least my version, page 5 of the staff report, it even references the bullet at the top that says this application was referred to the Planning Commission on April 25 for consideration/recommendation of 2 items. The very next section in key section in key issues, number 3, A, codify all time of activity limited to 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., and B, clarify how vehicles are delivered to the site. Those were the 2 issues. And the Planning Commission did acknowledge that, and we stipulated that the activity at the site in terms of delivery or removal of vehicles would be 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. We also clarified how delivery would occur. Mr. Richardson even indicated it will either be by truck, which is limited to the 60 semi-trips a day, or by being driven, and that number of cars is limited to 420. We've agreed to that stipulation as well. So, to be honest, I thought that was the end of it. The middle of that page includes all of the adopted stipulations as originally adopted, and you'll note there is no reference to several of the stipulations that then appear at the bottom of the page in the Planning Commission recommendation. And I want to reiterate that the Planning Commission by law is limited to the instructions you as a body give them. And those were to identify the time of activity and how the method of delivery would occur. So I thought I'd be getting back the same list of the original adopted STIPs together with these 2 clarifications. Unfortunately, that is not what we got back. And it now indicates the hours of operation are 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The words, the only exception is the changing of security shifts. That wasn't anything taken up by this body or the Planning Commission. Now, I will offer that I responded to Mr. Richardson and said, my concern is here, and Mr. LaRocca sitting in the back of the room, you'll remember he's the general manager. He is not security. He goes to the site on a regular basis, night and day, to be sure that everything is okay. The last thing I wanted was some reference that even him traveling to the site is somehow a violation. It was not a stipulation. I respectfully asked that that be removed, but we're here because it hasn't been. Number 3 indicated, well, we really don't need to even talk or bother you with number 3. But number 4 was the real tripping point. The unified government expects 100% compliance with all stipulations. Close is not sufficient. That's not a stipulation. And I object, and I would object here and in every other forum I was ever in, that any client would be put to the task of some interpretation that something was a violation, and ergo, because it was less than 100%, you automatically lose your property right under the Constitution and all the value that goes along with it. That was not a stipulation of this body. We've not even come under a vote for revocation, much less should we be under a zero tolerance measure. I want to remind that this is a large operation. We have never denied anything or said anything different. It can accommodate 12,000 and some cars a month going in and out of there under these stipulations. If they're 5 minutes early or they're 5 minutes late, we're going to hear about it. But I can't agree, and I would hope you would agree, I can't agree, to say that it's a 100% compliance stipulation. Let me say out loud, we understand the expectation of compliance. Of course we do. We have a special use permit that is subject to your review and a motion to revoke it. We understand. But when that allegation happens, it's not always true. And we certainly want the opportunity to come in and state the facts and have you vote on those facts. What we don't want and cannot agree to is that merely because we are alleged to have a technical violation of any sort, that you don't have any say about it. You say, it says right there, 100% compliance. I guess I'd have no choice in my vote. I have to vote to revoke. That does not belong here, ladies and gentlemen. I would dare say that you have not placed that stipulation in any special use permit you have issued. I am pretty confident when I say that. And it doesn't belong here. So I'm trying to avoid fights that we don't need to have. I've stipulated to all of the stipulations that were there before and the ones that we went back pursuant to Commissioner's Bynum request for clarification. That should be the end of it. And I respectfully request that we move along.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing, ask if there is anyone present who would like to speak in favor of special use permit 2018-54. If so, please step to the podium at this time, give us your name and address for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to state your comments.
My name is Rebecca Joy Gardner. I live at 9625 Leavenworth Road, directly across the street from the entrance to the Woodlands. My son and I live there, and we're the only house that's actually affected by the ingoing and outcoming of cars. Lathrop and Gage is a very good, very successful, very expensive, large legal firm. I'm an individual. And it seems sometimes like we speak different languages. I feel like David fighting Goliath. Their first agreement was broken.
Sorry, ma'am. Are you speaking in favor or in opposition?
Both.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Their first agreement was broken. To Mr. Beeler, that wasn't a problem. To me, it was. The operating hours were broken, the vehicle numbers were off, the methods of transport were inconsistent. All three were broken. And I'm concerned about a new agreement for the same reasons. They agreed to changes in the agreement. Verbally, we were told that all driven transport cars would be counted, unlike last time. They agreed the 7:30 to 7:30 time was good. And this is how do I know this is going to be true again? The city should either monitor or ask for reports, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever, to verify what's coming in and how they're coming in type of situation. I thought and I may have misunderstood, that Mr. Beeler had said last time that all the cars coming, starting in August again, would be driven and no more transport trucks.
You have 1 minute, ma'am. 1 minute.
Oh, okay, they've changed that, and now he says trucks and cars. He said 400, that's a lot of cars coming and turning right at your driveway. And especially for me in the winter when it's dark, the headlights come right into my house, in my bedroom. And if it doesn't wake me up, it wakes my dogs up and they wake me up. And I spoke with Mr. Beeler at one point about an abatement, sound light abatement, little wall that goes just across the front of my house. That would remedy the whole thing for me. If they can fix a lady's yard because a truck drove in it by mistake, I don't think that asking for that, which would remedy the whole situation, I just don't want to have the headlights coming in, and I don't want the sound. And especially not knowing how many are coming or by what means. I'm just a regular person. I can't afford a fancy lawyer like Mr. Beeler. But I am not trying to squelch their making some money while they're waiting for other things to transpire to be able to reopen.
Your time is up, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor?
Not in favor.
No? Anyone like to speak in opposition?
I'm going to speak in favor.
Okay.
My name is Janice Witt. I live at 2717 North 88th Terrace. And I bet Scott Beeler is shocked to see me standing here in favor. I have a question, though. What is the amount of the taxes that are paid on the use of this property? Can we hold my time while we check?
I believe the appraised value is somewhere around $600,000 or $700,000 on this property.
Okay, how much is coming in for this use that's being allowed on the property?
Nothing directly from this use. It would just be the property taxes that are paid for the property.
Just the
There's
standard
no,
property taxes?
yeah.
And the permits, okay, so how much are the permits costing? How much are the permits bringing into the UG coffer?
The permit's under $1,500 for the special use permit,
Under 1,500,
yes.
okay.
And their appraised value in 2019 was, well, I'm having trouble, it looks like almost 9, is that 9 million? Can you read that, Misty? I can't read that.
Okay.
So
almost-
there's no financial benefit whatsoever for the UG or for the people of the UG, including the young lady that's in front of it. There is no benefit for the inconvenience that's being supported, that we're getting from the use of this? No taxes whatsoever? No funds are being offered? They pay their taxes?
They pay their taxes, so.
20-some thousand dollars a year on taxes. Okay, I think that we need to support our businesses, our small businesses, but as well as we need to support our small businesses, it's very important that we take care of our citizens. This young lady is asking for a wall. She is asking for a berm. She's asking for comfort in her home that has been there, and she has lived there for quite some time.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, there are no taxes from the community coming in, no benefit for the community coming in. However, we are getting the tax, we are getting paid into for the regular tax base. I am asking that the wall for the citizen be allowed to be built, and that Lathrop and Gage cover those fees with their client, and that the trucks stop, and please give her a berm.
Anyone like to speak in opposition?
Lori Torres, 9828 Donahue Road, Kansas City, Kansas, 66109. I'm here in opposition. First of all, I think the Woodlands has appealed their taxes. That's first on the agenda. Second of all, on this paper, you say that land storage for use of semi-tractor trailer? That was never in there. If they're gonna store tractor trailers there, you're gonna have all the neighbors sitting listening to tractor trailer trucks run all night long. Second thing, the assumed insurance. When Mr. Beeler spoke April 25th at the planning meeting, he was asked if there's insurance. He stated, assumed. I assume there is insurance on the vehicles. And again, I question the plates that are being ran on these vehicles on the roads, and I question the insurance that is being, if there is insurance. He assumes there is, nobody knows. They haven't gone to the state and gotten their plates, so nobody knows. Nobody knows. One of your people, a senior citizen, a new 16-year-old driver that's out on the
You
road.
have 1 minute.
Okay, let's get into 100% of compliance. Mr. Beeler states there's nobody that's under that. If a bar stays open till 4 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna get zapped. They have to be in 100% compliance, just like the Woodlands should be. Now, I think that's about it, but they do need to be in 100% compliance. They're gonna, if you let them say, well, 7:45, no, they're gonna take it till 8:45. It's just like any bar, you know, they have to close down at 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they need to shut down at 3. Not 3:05, not 3:30. So they do need to be in, I feel like they do need to be in 100% compliance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Torres, 9828 Donahue Road. I haven't really done a lot of research and able to give you a good idea of how I feel, but there was a commercial on recently called Captain Obvious, whereas a gentleman dressed up like a captain would say the totally obvious, and that's the way I feel right now. It's as if we wouldn't be here if the contracts were lived up to in the beginning. The only reason this all started is because we couldn't find a way to live by what was said. So now we're told that let's move on. I can't live with 100% compliance. No one does, is what we were told. But I think it's a good faith effort to try to live up to those things and not to come and make excuses to you as to why these can't happen. It's just logic. Keep your word. The other thing that I'm bothered by is that it seems that the violations that have happened are with the transport company. I guess it's TLC Transport. But we've never seen them here. It would seem that they should come up here and tell you, look, we're sorry that it happened. We have new staff. Give me a reason. But what we're expecting is to have Mr. Beeler hold TLC accountable, but does he have that authority? Can he get a hold of them and say, look, I'm really tired of it. We're going to break our contract with you if you don't live up to it because I'm getting nailed at the commissioners meeting. But we haven't seen that. So who are these people? And if they are that good, and they do this for a living because they are nationwide, they knew the traffic was going to come in. They knew they planned to drive the vehicles one at a time. It's not brand new. It's their business. Where are they? Are you able to hold them liable, or do we expect Mr. Beeler to do that? Because if we do, you're going to be back here again. So, regardless of this, in the end, it was up for revocation. How about we just make an agreement? Let's not do this again. We've had too much trouble with it.
You have 1 minute, sir.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition? All right, is there anyone, if there are no further comments or questions from the public, I'll close the public hearing. Would the petitioner like to make any closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the public's comments. I think everyone is aware of this, but if you noticed, they're on the original adopted stipulations. Number 5 says withdrawal of the UPS truck trailer storage. That's never been part of this application before this body. It was withdrawn before the very first hearing, and it is not part of it today. The assumed insurance, I'm not sure I understand the comments. The fact of the matter is the stipulation which we've agreed to says that these cars will all have the appropriate paperwork, including insurance representation when the cars are moved by a driver. So we understand that stipulation. It doesn't matter whether I know what it is or I don't. That's a stipulation now, that they will have it. So they have to have it, and we get that. The plates, I'm not going to go back over that. Ms. Torres brings that up a lot, and good for her. But a plate is not required. The Highway Patrol has verified that, so has your police department. And with regard to the bar example, if I'm the bar owner, I control whether or not I lock the door at 4 o'clock. They've indicated here we are dealing with third parties and transport companies. We are standing down on them and standing down hard. I'm the one who modified the contract to say 7:30 to 7:30, no matter how you get it there. That wasn't in there originally. It wasn't even in the stipulations originally, even though I've always said that's what we will try to adhere to. So bottom line is we've sort of been there, done that on this. The stipulations are now clarified and in place. We will do everything in our corporate power to make sure that they are adhered to. And in the event that something comes out of the blue we're unaware of, I'm sure we'll be back here talking to you about it. We don't want that any more than you do, but that's what the system is, and that's how you approach an alleged violation of an SUP. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner Kane.
Mr. Bailey can come back up. First of all, they have to know where every one of those vehicles is at every single time. So they know how many that went in there and how many went out. That's really not an issue. I do think it's a good idea, though, to build a berm with maybe some bushes so she wouldn't have that light coming into her room. And I don't think a berm and bushes are that expensive to get past this issue that we're at right now.
The only, if you're asking me.
I am asking you.
The 7:30 to 7:30 change was done to be sure that it was daylight operation hours. In other words, to remove any concern that the cars were coming out shining their lights in her window. So that was the whole concern raised at the time, and we agreed to the time
In the
concession.
wintertime, it's still dark at 7:30, and in the wintertime, it's dark at 7:30 at night.
I can only.
I think it'd be a really good suggestion on your part to take that as something that, just to ease the pain for the lady who lives across the street.
I will take that to my client, I promise.
I'm not sure I'm asking you to take it to your client. I think that's what's part of the stipulation should be.
It's not the one back here now, but from the Planning Commission. So I don't know.
We
how
have
I
the
can
right
answer
to modify what they said. And I think it'd be a really good idea to put a berm there and some bushes to help the lady, because she was semi for you and semi against you. And you're only talking about a couple $1,000s.
I hear you loud and clear, Commissioner, and I will pass that along. I will suggest to you, and please allow me to respectfully do that this body cannot order a member of the public to pay for an improvement on another public person's property. That's not within the authorization of this governing body.
Well, I've been here 14 years, and we've modified a lot of this for 14 years, and I don't want to argue with you, but what I want to do tell you is in order to make this pass with the least amount of pain, I'm making that suggestion, and as it comes around, it'll probably be a motion. And I don't agree with what you said. We've made modifications on multiple things around here forever, and we always will, because we're trying to make sure you get what you want and the people get what they want.
I'm not yelling, sir, so
I'm not yelling yet.
I'm sure that I will take it to the client.
Rob, would you clarify, legally what?
Well, I'm not an attorney, but we have required improvements on other properties in the past. They've not been challenged, and other cities have as well. I'm not aware of any time where that's been overturned, but like I said, it's not a legal opinion. It's just my experience in doing this in multiple cities.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I agree that Mr. LaRocca should be allowed to be on the site as he needs to. He may get there at 7 a.m. I don't know. I'm not sure how to modify that. I guess it would be in item 1 of the Planning Commission recommendation, if there would be a way to modify that for
Well, Commissioner, I
LaRocca.
I believe the Planning Commission considered Mr. LaRocca part of the security for the site. So he would be in that. That's why that was stated that way. So
So I guess I need to understand what number 1 means, because it says hours of operation are 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The only exception is security.
well, they probably won't have a 12-hour security shift. They will probably change security personnel during that 12 hours overnight at some point in time, and we wanted them to be able to do that, and we wanted Mr. LaRocca to be able to visit the site. So that would mean if they change, one security guard leaves, another one comes in, that doesn't count against their total, and we aren't going to penalize them for Mr. LaRocca or the security guards being changed between 7:30 p.m. and 7:30 a.m.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if that needs clarification at all on our part.
I am good with what Mr. Richardson is indicating. I just wanted it clear that if management was there, I don't know when securities will change and that kind of thing. But yes, in the concept, I agree with.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, and a motion to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation. I'm sorry, there is no recommendation to revoke. That's not,
Correct. The recommendation are the 5 items on page 5 of the staff report.
okay.
And
Commissioner
it's been back and forth, so 6 votes, you can modify, you can approve, you can deny, you can revoke with 6 votes.
With 6 votes. I'm sorry. Commissioner Townsend?
I did have a question, Mayor, and it goes to the issue that Commissioner Kane raised for the berm. I know counselors, I want to ask counsel, who is it that would have to agree to this? I understand that you're not agreeing because you have a client. So who is the person or the entity that would have to agree to that one way or the other?
If it's a stipulation, they don't have to agree, they just have to do it.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's clarification enough for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. What I heard Mrs. Gardner ask for was a sound or light barrier. So I guess I pictured something different, almost something that was attached to her window, and whether that could be agreeable.
She described a wall, I believe. But
Okay.
It's part of the problem is just not knowing what to do. What's going to take. So I just can't make that commitment.
Commissioner Kane?
I'd make a motion to accept what the planning and zoning did with an addition of a berm and some bushes. That's not that expensive. I think it'll really work, and it'll satisfy some of the people that are there, and I know you don't like it, but I think that's the best thing to make this go forward, and that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Roll call.
Clarification, is the 100% part of that or not, Commissioner?
Yes, so far.
Remove it.
Yes. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 2 is SB 2019-85, Frank Lavender Jr. for a short-term special use permit to host the KCK Street Blues Festival this coming Saturday at 3924 North 49th Drive. Don't let my tone of voice make it sound like an endorsement, but I'll ask staff to make some opening comments.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was an approved activity last year. Mr. Lavender has applied to do this again this year. he was a little confused that he has to, this is an annual process that he has to go through. That's why we're kind of here at the last minute. But I will also say that this is a very rarely used exception in the zoning code that allows for a short-term special use permit activity to be approved by the Board of Commissioners without notice to the neighbors. So there's been no notice on this because of the short-term nature of it, and it's before you, recommended for approval by the staff.
Thank you. Now I ask the applicant to come forward and make comments. Please state your name and address for the record.
Frank Lavender, the address of the event place is 3924 North 49th Drive, Kansas City, Kansas, 66104. Yes, sir?
And anything you want to say?
I'd like to say that this event is a community service I consider, as well as the other members of the organization. This is a nonprofit organization. We don't make a dime on this. As a matter of fact, the last 3 years, we've lost $16,000 putting this on. And we do this to honor and recognize our musicians in the community, that the majority of the people that don't even know they exist. And we're trying to keep the music and blues heritage alive in Kansas City, Kansas, because this is the only event that does that. And we appreciate you guys' support for us trying to make this happen. And like I say, it's a community service. It's a passion of ours because we love music. And we do this because we love our community.
Thank you. I want to open the public hearing, ask if there's anyone present who would like to speak in favor. If so, please step to the podium at this time, give us your name and address for the record. All right. Anyone who would like to speak in opposition? All right. If there are no further comments or questions from the public, I'll close the public hearing. Would you like to make any closing comments, Mr. Lavender?
I don't have any closing comments other than the fact that I would like to thank you and this commission for the past and present support that you've given this function, because without your support, it wouldn't happen. And that's what you to know, that we all appreciate you.
Thank you. Any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner Bynum.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. It's a great festival. I make a motion for approval of the short-term special use permit.
We have a motion and a second, but Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to echo my support for this event. Certainly an organization that will risk going in the hole to continually promote this has at heart the best interests of the community, and also keeping the legacy of jazz, blues, good entertainment alive on both sides of the river. So I would also support this motion and ask that it be passed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask that next year should this be before us once again, as I assume it will be, that we have a more appropriate time frame so that those that are bringing this issue forward don't have to wait till the 11th hour in case there's an issue that we need to address. But to have this brought forward in such a short amount of time with the window coming up for the festival, I would hope that we would be a little more astute in bringing it forward earlier next year.
Well, I would assume that was Mr. Mr. Lavender. I think we understand that was, yeah.
I spoke with Mr. Lavender at our zoning meeting in April, I believe, up on Quindaro, and notified him of the need for this. So we did try.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend? Nope, nothing. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call: Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We now move to the regular portion of our agenda. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Please come forward.
Number 7,
Thank you. And your name and address, please.
Cecilia Mang, 212 North 38th Street.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bach,
Item number 4, please.
and item number 4. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second for all remaining items. Roll call, please.
Did you make the motion? Yeah. Kane. And then McKiernan.
Roll call Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook. Commissioner Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that takes us to the set-aside item, which is item number 7. I'm sorry, well, 4 first?
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 4.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for a fitness court that we were looking at Fisher Park. We found out today that one of our funders for the grant funding for this project has some concerns regarding the park, and we need to have further dialogue with them before we advance this. So I am asking for this item to be set aside or held over to a future commission meeting, and we will bring it back at that point if we're able to resolve our differences with that funder. If not, we will look for a new site.
All right, thank you.
So I would request a motion to hold this over to a future meeting.
Move to hold it over.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Kane. Vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That takes us to the set-aside item, item number 7. I'll recognize you, miss. Did you set aside the item? Well, no, I just need the person who set aside the item to come up and describe the reasons why they are setting aside the item.
It's actually only one portion of 7, so it is Commissioner McGee's appointment of Matt Warner to the Parks and Recreation Board.
Okay.
We have been previously from March until now and currently still fighting or going and petitioning them to take Metro 24 out, and we feel like it's unethical for the owner of the Metro 24 to vote if his company gets to stay there with free rent, utilities, and taxes.
Well, let's be clear that the members of the Parks and Recreation Board do not vote on anything. They are simply an advisory board. They have no fiduciary power. They have no authority over any personnel, over scheduling. They simply hear from the community and then move that back and advise our Parks and Rec. So there is no ethical conflict here.
Miss Wyatt is here, but we learned last month that they do vote and that they're a policy-making board. They were under training for such things, and so that's who we were speaking with, and so they do vote, and we were going to request a vote for that.
Okay, but I believe in legal counsel would address this.
Yes, I can understand why there could be some confusion, but the mayor is correct. The Parks Board is an advisory board to the commission. They may, amongst themselves, vote on what they're going to advise the commission, but as the mayor said, they have no fiduciary responsibilities. They don't vote on who would stay in there, like if Metro 24 would be in the facility or not. So they are merely advisory.
Yes.
So, just a moment here. Just a moment. All right. So again, if anybody would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this appointment, I suppose is what. Please come forward, state your name and residency.
Hi, my name is Faith Rivera. My address is 908 Hagman Street, Kansas City, Kansas, 66103. I am a Rosedale resident, second generation, actually. And the reason why I oppose this is, actually, what does the Parks and Recs Board do if they don't have any policies? What, can you explain that? Or is that okay to do that right now?
Mr. Bach,
Do you want us to address? You want to
go ahead.
Misty, do you want to start with that? We can-
Yes, I can start with it. So the Parks Board is there to give advice to the Parks and Recreation Department about how they think the parks should be done, different things with hours of operations of the parks. But to be clear on that, they do not, what they believe or how they might feel as what should be a policy is subject to the authority of the commission.
Okay, and the commissioner in question, I mean, she's for the Metro 24, so please, I'm begging you, we've contacted you, we've been diligent as a community and have stand up and made a voice here for our community and said, please don't do this for us. We have gone to Board and Recs, Parks and Recs board meetings and been diligent in our community, came together as a unity to say this is not what our community wants. So please, I can't just express it enough that our community does not want this, and we've come for this. I'm a Rosedale resident. It is my community center. It is my community center. My kids went there. My kids danced there. My kids partied there. Our community was there. So please think about that. And if he has an advice, it's advice that he would give. So that's just what I have to say. Thank you.
I might add too, just to clarify, Ms. Rivera, so you understand, our ethics code, or actually they've ruled on it before too, regarding elected body members, if they want to come up and, as long as there's a bid or an RFP process that we conduct, then it's allowable for even elected commissioners or such to come through and participate and bid back for an item.
It doesn't matter. The community's spoken, and we don't want this. And we've asked you guys, we've reached out to you for this information. So please, I understand what you're saying, but if he has anything to do with this board, you're tainting the Wyandotte County. You're tainting the UG, and you keep tainting it. And I mean, that's just what I'm trying to say. I mean, if you guys don't see it, if you guys don't see it, and we're telling you, and we're asking you not to do it, I mean, yes.
Well, it's also possible we simply disagree.
Yes,
Mrs. Wyatt,
thank you.
Please.
Carolyn Wyatt, 359 Troop. I am an active park board member, and I think that it's a conflict of interest. And the reason I say that, because we do vote. We vote there when we're there. And I think that someone who is making income, who is getting paid or whatever, I think that that makes it a conflict of interest. And they have no interest in the center. They have no interest in the community. They have no interest in the kids when they put them out or put people out of the center. So I think you actually need to go and see what's going on as you allow this to happen. You need to go yourself and see actually what's happening in the community. Because actually we have centers that aren't actually being run correctly because you don't want to fund it, you don't want programs in there for the kids. That's just not Argentine. That's Beatrice Lee. So you actually are not funding it. You don't want to put a program person in there to run programs, to outreach. So maybe this isn't your community, but it's our community. And I think that you need to take a look at it and see what's working and what's not working and make a change. That you think is working, but it's for profit. For profit is not for us. For profit could be for you, whoever's benefiting from it, but it's not the community and the people that live in that area. So you actually need to take a look at it. Because most of y'all, I've been there so many times for programs for Beatrice Lee, So many times I've been up here and I bought programs. Not even one have they put in there for the community, not even two.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
So I think that as you commissioners, you need to be responsible for what we put you here for. Fund the center. Put a person upstairs. We have kids going to jail. They have no place to go, nothing to do. They're not your kids, because you go home, you have it. Think about our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and city of residency.
I'm Juwan Taylor, and my residence is over there by Kensington. I actually stay at Hillcrest Transitional Housing right now. My thing is with the Metro 24 is that I believe that it shouldn't be in the community centers and that it should. I recommend that y'all put them into buildings. There's so many vacant buildings around here in Wyandotte County in general. So why do you choose the community centers which the kids go play at? And if it's not beneficial for the community at all, then I don't think it should be in the community centers. You can choose one of these buildings, put it around there, but the community center is where a lot of kids go. I'm there at the community center every day. And I help these kids out with basketball, whatever they need with, and try to lead them and guide them in the right path to keep them and stir them away from the streets. If this Metro 24 is not beneficial for them, then a lot of these kids is gonna, turn into the wrong path. And, I got my own beliefs that's kind of why the new detention center was built, in a sense. I don't know exactly what y'all got planned. I don't care, to be honest. But don't put them in the community center, because we need this. I done went through a lot of these community centers since I done grew up, graduated college, did my thing, and now I'm coming back to try to say this because I heard about it and it came across me a couple of times. But I just really don't believe that they should be. I don't want it at all.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Diana Aguirre. I live at 1311 South 33rd Street. I have lived in Wyandotte County for 34 years. Out of that 34 years, my husband and I have volunteered over 20 years in the community center. We had made sure that the kids are safe. We did youth nights for kids that were in middle school and high school. We did trick-or-treat villages for the younger kids. We had over 1,700 kids that would come through there. Nobody else has ever been able to do the youth nights because they are hard to keep kids under control so that they have a safe place to stay. I do know that I did speak to Ruth today because we made a complaint with the Ethics Commission that this was unethical for you to appoint the owner of a for-profit company that is in a non-exempt building. So we made a complaint with Ruth. She did tell me that she sent a memo to the mayor and Doug Bach and asked you to table this request, this vote, until she investigated it. And apparently you guys said no, that you were going to keep it on the agenda. She's our ethics commissioner. She's over you guys. So she says she's still going to do the investigation, and we're going to follow behind her to make sure that anybody that had part of this is going to be definitely. So if you guys have any questions for me while I'm up here, Mr. McKiernan, I hope that you think this over. Ms. Phil Brooks, all of you commissioners. You have people out here that are really concerned about you taking away those community centers. You can't privatize and keep a tax-exempt building at one time. It just isn't right. That's why you guys have to reapply for tax exemption for the Miles Center. I have documentation, and I know that Ms. Bynum took it all. I don't know if you guys, anybody looked it over, but I have it.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
And it's going to go to the media, to your radio stations, because if you can't give our small businesses a handout, like you guys are, this gentleman from Metro 24, I'll let them go ahead and have them call you and let them see if you guys can give them some money, free rent, utility also. So I hope that you guys vote against Matt Warner's position.
All right, thank you. Close the public hearing.
No,
I'm sorry?
The last one. I'm easy. I have a question. Are we aware aware?
Please,
Were you guys?
again, state your name and your.
I'm sorry. My name is Janice Witt, 2717 North 88th Terrace. Were you guys aware that the Ethics Commissioner had asked, is this true? First, I have to ask if that's true. Did the Ethics Commissioner ask that this vote be held?
I've spoken to the legislative auditor and then also to Ruth Benin, who is our ethics administrator. After review of the information that was given to her, she agreed that there was no apparent conflict in this based on past ethics rulings that have been in place, and agreed that we should move forward with the action at hand, though she did say she would take a further look at it. But we have previous ethics opinions on this that show that there is no conflict of interest.
Okay, so you're saying that she did not ask you to table the vote?
She sent something over and asked about tabling the vote. Then we clarified if she would take a look at informed her of the situation. She said she was not aware of the situation at all. After she reviewed the information, she agreed with it, that we were moving forward with it tonight would be the right move to make. But she said she would probably take an additional look at it.
Okay, I posted today because there are a lot of people calling me, asking me about ethics. What is this? In the preamble of your ethics, it states that you all will ensure that things that appear to be, let's just say, dirty, are not done. This thing kind of looks dirty. I am certain that it's not going to change your mind, that I stand here and say, you know what? It just doesn't pass the smell test. You know, that this guy is now being put on the board, on a board that will then allow him to vote on benefits that fall directly to him. If it were one of you, I would be up here saying, you're going to need to recuse yourself from this particular vote.
1 minute.
And I understand that you're going to go ahead and make your vote regardless. But if it were one of you, I would be saying, don't you think you should recuse yourself from this thing and let's consider it? So I would like to ask you to reconsider it. I would like to ask you, Mayor Alvey, to please become more involved, become more active in making sure that the people don't view our commission as a bully pulpit or a joke. And I will tell you, there are things in place right now. There are recall elections. If you can't get the thing under control, then the people have the right and the authority to petition for a recall. And I would hate to see that happen. I'd love to see you finish out your term and see what we come up with. So that's my take. I believe that if there was any question from the Ethics Commission or from the Ethics Chair, it should have simply gone away, and then we all talked about it again.
Your time
and
is
came
up,
back to
ma'am.
play on a better day.
Ms. Brown?
Commission, I would just like to clarify that if Mr. Warner is appointed to be on the Parks Board, he would be required to recuse himself from any votes that he would have a direct financial interest in or any interest in whatsoever. So it's not as if he could go and vote to, do anything that would benefit him, just like all of you commissioners are required to recuse yourself in matters like that.
Correct. And we are simply going to follow the procedures and the stipulations of our charter, and we're going to follow those. If there are any concerns that the ethics administrator does investigate and find, then we will have to abide by those. That's simply what we do. And we cannot do anything more than that. We cannot do anything less than that. I'd entertain a motion. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In listening to the discussion, I think there was some melding of two issues, one of them being that the Metro Fitness or Metro 24, whatever it's called, is utilizing a public facility, and two, it's the appointment of an individual to the Parks Board. And I think that maybe during the discussion, those two issues have gotten melded together. So I just want to ensure that what we are taking action on now is the appointment of the individual to the Parks Board and not the resolution of the issue about Metro 24 within the public facility. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We're simply considering whether to approve these nominations to the parks.
Thank you.
Or other boards.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I wanted to clarify that as well. And because I think we have a lot of topics around the parks and the Parks Board, we might be well-served to also receive or be given the training that our Parks Board members received, I don't know, a few weeks ago or a month ago, at their last Parks Board meeting. You know, it would be good, I think, maybe for us and the public to understand, because there's been a lot of discussion about three things, really: the Parks Board, their powers and duties, the community centers, and now this appointment. So to me, three entirely separate items. Might be worth spending some time on clarifying all ordinances, all policies around these issues. I did go back and look at the minutes of the Parks Board meetings on our website. I'm sad to say the current minutes are not there. I looked at every set of minutes I could find for 2018. The only votes of the Parks Board I could see were votes to approve the agenda and votes to approve the minutes. There were no other votes taken by the members of the Parks Board in 2018, which is another reason why I think we and the public needs the clarification around the duties of the Parks Board. Tonight's action is a group vote of more than one appointment to a board and commission. It is 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken, all to be taken as one vote. So if I stand in opposition to that, I'm opposing my own appointment to another board. So that concerns me as well. I certainly do not want to or plan to stand in opposition to my own appointment to a board. So I just feel like maybe we have multiple things to unravel here, one of which might be the way we bring forward appointments to our boards and commissions.
Commissioner Burrows?
Thank you. This is for legal, and a question in reference to this. Can we divide the question? Vote on them individually?
No, not at this point. The agenda's been set with them all out as one vote.
But could we make an amendment to the motion to exclude or to include a nominee?
We need to vote on them all as one block because that's how the agenda went out with it. And so if you wish to do that in the future, that you could on a different agenda, but as it's been put on there, it needs to be one vote.
Well, Body, this probably isn't going to be a favorable motion because I do know we have appointments that need to move forward, but I'm going to make a motion that we table this until we hear back from ethics and would hope that we would have some more clarity because I do believe there's an opportunity here to vet some of this out without making a good situation bad or a bad situation better by having to go with a group vote for all. I don't like having to divide questions out. I would like the opportunity to maybe vet this through the ethics, and there's been an ethics request, and I think with the discussion that was had a minute ago, I'm just going to ask that we table this till the next meeting.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call, Markley.
No.
Walters. Philbrook.
No.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
McGee.
No.
Kane.
No.
The vote is 5 to 4, and the noes. Motion is denied.
Motion is denied. I entertain a motion then to move this forward.
Move to accept the appointments as is.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
No.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-1, that motion carries.
Thank you. Our last order of business is under the Commissioner's agenda. We have recommendations from members of the governing body for the 2019 UG Hollywood Casino and Schlitterbahn Vacation Village grants. Administrator Bach, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mayor. This item comes to you as recommended by each commissioner as you've gone through, done your evaluation of the various applicants that have put in for this year's award. This item was presented to, well, this item has been worked through and sent to the commission for review. If you would like, we can have Mr. Cross come forward and present all the items in detail. If not, I would recommend this item for approval as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0, that motion carries.
Before we adjourn, Commissioner Kane has a couple of questions.
Mr. Bach, 2 questions. Can you tell us about the raccoons at the fire station, 1? And the other is, I was told that the Department of Labor was at fire headquarters a couple of weeks ago. I'd like to know why and why they were here and what they came up with.
The raccoons at Fire Station 17, we discovered a few days ago. Our department took action to go in. We had contacted an outside agency, Animal Critters or something like that, to come in to make sure the facility was secure so nothing would come down into the living conditions or areas where our firefighters are. They set out some traps to try to secure them. There's also open areas for them to try to, they can escape and leave the area. They'll be up there a few days. We believe we have that situation being taken care of at this point. Regarding the labor, they came in and take a look at a few different things throughout the unified government. I am not aware of findings. I have not been presented that information or what they have at hand at this time.
Okay, well, I've only, to my knowledge, they've only been here once in 14 years, and we all knew about it. And I would like to know when they're here, and then I know it takes 3 or 4 weeks for them to get the answers, so whatever the answers that they give you, I'd like to get.
Certainly.
Thank you. We are adjourned.